Hello there. This video was originally uploaded on my personal channel. If you like horror reviews plus videos discussing everything horror, please subscribe to Sunderland. There will be a link to the channel in the description and at the end of this video. Now let's get to this video. Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of Cancelled Horror Games, a series where I talk about horror games that were like, oh yeah, we're gonna come out mate, get all hyped and shit, oh wait, nah, we aren't coming out. In this episode, I will be discussing Cleric, which was a game recommended to me in the comments section of a previous video by Greg Elliot. Thanks Greg, and sorry if I butchered your name. If you want me to cover a horror game, let me know. Anyway, on with the show. Cleric was a first-person survival horror game in development in the early 2000s for PC by Texas-based studio Plutonium Games. It was built on the 3D engine used to develop Serious Sam, and would have featured a unique combat system, puzzle elements, action and role-play mechanics, alongside a myriad of other things. Cleric was set in 16th century Russia, which is like current day Russia except with a lot less Slavs and a lot more snow and zombies, which honestly sounds a lot like modern day Russia. To all my Russian fans, we are sorry. In the port town of Novo Kolmogory, the residents have been having a little bit of a rough time because, like, dead bodies keep reanimating, and not only that, but also all the young girls of the town have gone and been taken into the wilderness. In comes Reverend Father Aronis Shul. He's been sent to investigate the mystery behind why the dead don't want to stay dead, and why these girls all thought hanging out in the woods was a fabulous idea. But unlike every other priest, Father Shul isn't fond of kids, and he's having an internal struggle stemming from his not too hot and heavy relationship with the old man upstairs. According to the developer, this lack of faith would have played a key part in the story and the development of Father Shul's character. He would have learned who he is throughout the game and who or what he believes in. This would have been done through conversations with other characters. Cleric would have featured a dialogue tree for conversations similar to other RPGs like Morrowind or Baldur's Gate. Choosing a specific option at a key moment would influence the character of Father Shul alongside the ending of the game. The developers also suggested how the player played the game would also influence the endings, but they didn't go into specifics. It is not like the game industry to be super vague at all. Its gameplay would have had some mechanics that would make Cleric interesting and set it apart from its horror counterparts. Well, mainly to do with the combat. I like how I set that sentence up to suggest Cleric would have been like the Half-Life 3 of horror games, but instead I'm actually going to talk about the pew pew and the bang bang. Father Shul would have been equipped with the top of the line in 16th century Russian weaponry. What gun am I talking about? The musket. He would have had the ability to fire, slowly reload his weapon, wonder whether he left the oven on at home, and be ready to fire by the turn of the 17th century. The father would have also had swords and maces, but they aren't as cool as the power of the musket. To compensate for the slowest gun known to man, Father Shul would have also had the power of God by his side. Firstly, he would have had access to a symbol that would be used like a holy cross. This would have repelled zombies, and if held out long enough, it would cause the dead bodies to catch on fire. Another useful tool at the father's disposal would have been the ability to just like become Thor for a little bit and summon lightning to attack enemies. I wondered whether the player's choices would have influenced these powers based off Father Shul's faith in God. I honestly think that would have been pretty cool. But Cleric wasn't going to focus on combat. Instead, it would have been used as a last resort. This was elaborated in an interview by Game Toaster with CEO and lead designer of Plutonium Games, Matthew Doyle.
Emphasis is not on killing everything you see. Sometimes, running will be your only option. There'll be a great deal of appropriate and innovative puzzles. We call them appropriate because all of our puzzles make sense in the game world. No puzzles for the sake of puzzles.
Since there is a major focus on appropriate puzzles, I assume Father Shul would have had to solve the mystery of how do we make young Timmy not tell his parents about the private sessions with Father Pell. Jumping off that very edgy joke, I'm going to talk about something weird to do with Cleric. After all I've described about this game, is your next thought, damn, multiplayer would be a perfect addition? Well, the developers thought the same thing. Funnily enough, it actually sounded a little bit ahead of its time. In the same interview, Mr. Doyle said,
"Players will be able to raise undead creatures to fight for them in multiplayer. They will only have access to the miracles that they have learned in the single-player game. So, if you finish, you will have every possible miracle at your disposal, making you a formidable opponent. This is primarily done to keep players from seeing all the miracles before the single-player story has been completed.
The idea of limiting a player's abilities in multiplayer because they haven't finished the campaign seems pretty silly though, but hey, this game never came out, so who's the silly one now? But the idea of having a multiplayer game where not only are you just fighting them, but having monsters that you could summon to fight against an enemy player does sound pretty cool. Cleric was planned for release in around December in 2003, but when Santa came and went, the game didn't come out. After a little bit of radio silence, it was announced on April 14th in 2004 that the game would be put on hold and possibly cancelled. The developer hinted at the reason for this was because Cleric had trouble finding a publisher that was interested. Also, there was personal reasons behind why the developer couldn't continue. The post had hinted at the idea that the game may come out at some point, but since I am doing a video about it, well, that didn't happen. And that was the life and times of Cleric. It seemed to have a few cool ideas in a unique setting, but it failed to gather the attention of a publisher, which resulted in it being laid to rest. It is a shame that it couldn't have risen like the zombies in the game, but that is the way that life is, isn't it? And that joke was fucking terrible, but I'm keeping it in. Thank you for joining me, and if you want me to cover a game, reach out to me on Twitter or comment on any of my videos. And a big thanks to Creepy Elliot and Wild Potato Industries for lending their sweet and seductive voices for this video. They both make great content, and please show them some love by subscribing, but make sure you let them know that I fucking sent you. I will leave links to their channels in the description. I love you all, and goodbye.